Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving into something I know a lot of you are really into.
Yeah, for sure.
Travel planning.
Ah, yes.
We've got this transcript from another podcast. It's called Planning a Trip
Okay.
with these two hosts, Sophia and James. Mm-hmm. And it's just chock full of tips and tricks and advice.
Nice.
So picture this.
All right.
Your passport in hand, ready for an adventure.
Okay.
Where will you go?
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that this trip is one you'll never forget?
Right.
That's what we're hoping to uncover today.
For sure.
And what's so fascinating about travel
Well,
is that it's not just about seeing the sights.
no, it's not about just, ticking things off a list.
Right.
It's about, immersing yourself in different cultures,
Yeah.
trying new things, maybe pushing your comfort zone a little bit,
Right.
and that element of the unknown that's so exciting about travel.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dive into this Planning a Trip podcast
Okay.
and see what Sophia and James have to say.
Yeah.
They start off talking about why people travel.
Mm-hmm.
And they list out reasons like seeing new places,
Okay.
relaxing, meeting new people, visiting family and friends,
Right.
even work or study.
Of course.
All pretty standard stuff. Right?
Yeah, I mean, those are all very valid reasons to travel. But if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture,
Okay.
I think the core benefit of travel is really personal growth.
Okay.
It's about expanding your understanding, not just of the world,
Right.
but also of yourself.
I like that.
And, Sophia even mentions this study
Oh, really?
that found that travel can actually increase creativity
Wow.
and problem-solving skills.
That's amazing.
So it's not just about having fun.
Right.
Though, of course, it's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's really about coming back from a trip feeling enriched as a person.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Especially, I know you in your notes have mentioned looking for these unique experiences.
Yeah.
So that research-backed benefit really speaks to, your travel goals.
Yeah, exactly.
So now Sophia and James,
Yeah.
they jump into, the first big decision when you're planning a trip. Mm-hmm. And that's the destination.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, they throw out some of the classics.
Right.
The Eiffel Tower.
Sure.
The Great Wall of China. A beautiful, serene beach somewhere.
Yeah, those are the dream destinations.
But then how do you pick?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Where do you even start?
Well, they talk about figuring out what kind of experience you're looking for.
Okay.
Sophia actually uses this analogy.
Okay.
She's like, are you looking for a beach read
Okay.
or an epic adventure novel?
I like that.
So are you thinking, like a relaxing getaway or maybe a challenging trek through the mountains?
Right.
That really helps you to kind of define your travel style, which then should guide your decision on where you go.
Right.
Because like a bustling city like New York versus, a charming village in Tuscany.
Totally.
Those are going to offer very different experiences.
Totally. And that ties right into what Sophia talks about next.
Okay.
And that's timing. If you want to go skiing in the Alps,
Yeah.
you got to go in the winter.
Makes sense.
And if you want to lay on a beach,
Right.
you probably don't want to go in, December.
Exactly.
But timing also impact your budget,
Oh, absolutely.
for sure.
Sophia refers to traveling during peak season as a premium experience,
Oh, interesting.
which means,
I see where this is going.
yeah, you're going to pay more
Yeah.
for flights and for accommodation.
Right.
But traveling during what's called shoulder season,
Okay.
so those periods just before or after peak season can actually be a really sweet spot.
Okay.
You often get pretty decent weather,
Okay.
fewer crowds,
Yeah.
and lower prices.
That's the dream.
Yeah, and James actually chimes in here
Okay.
with a little anecdote about getting a fantastic deal on a trip to Greece in late spring.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for our listeners as they're planning their next trip?
Yeah.
It means you got to consider what kind of experience you want,
Yeah.
when you can travel, and how much you're willing to spend.
Right.
These three things are all linked.
Yeah.
And Sophia really stresses understanding this early on will save you a lot of headaches later.
Absolutely. It's like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah.
You've got the destination, you've got your timing, and you've got your budget.
Right.
And each piece has to fit.
They got to fit together.
Exactly.
And once you have a general idea,
Okay.
Sophia and James, they really emphasize the importance of research.
Yes.
They call it your travel superpower. And I think they're right.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it.
They're not wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. It really is. Research is what kind of takes you from just being a tourist to being a traveler. You know, it's like the difference between like skimming a book
Right.
and really immersing yourself in the story.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it gives you those aha moments
Yeah.
that make a trip so memorable.
Okay, so where does Sophia and James recommend we start this research?
Well, they're big on using a mix of online and offline resources.
Okay.
Online, you've got your usual suspects,
Yeah.
like TripAdvisor and Lonely Planet.
Of course.
Those are great for like practical stuff, like hotel reviews and getting a sense of, the main attractions and things like that.
Right.
But they also talk about the power of travel blogs and vlogs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially, I know for you, you're looking for those more, off the beaten path kind of experiences. So blogs and vlogs can offer a more personal firsthand perspective
Definitely.
compared to like a guidebook.
Exactly. And if you're someone who is more visual,
Yeah.
YouTube is a fantastic resource for that because you can really get a feel for a place, see the vibe. Yeah. Hear people talking about their experiences. Totally. But, it's important to remember that a lot of bloggers get sponsored trips. So, just take their opinions with a grain of salt.
Good point.
Always good to cross-reference with other sources.
Yeah, don't just trust one source.
Right.
Sophia actually makes this really interesting distinction.
Oh, yeah.
She says TripAdvisor is like asking a crowd for directions,
Okay.
while a good travel blog is like having a knowledgeable friend recommend their favorite hidden gem.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the idea of finding those sources that align with your travel style.
Totally. And also, don't discount those, old school travel guides.
Right. Yeah, those can be really good too.
They can offer like historical context and unique insights that you might not find online.
Absolutely.
Plus, there's just something so satisfying
Totally.
about having a physical book
I know.
highlighting the places you want to go, making notes in the margins.
Yeah, it's all part of the fun.
It's part of the fun.
Planning a trip.
Exactly. And speaking of fun,
Okay.
let's talk about what we should actually be researching.
All right. So Sophia and James, they break it down into a few key categories.
Okay.
The first one, of course, is attractions.
Of course.
What are the must-sees?
Right.
Those iconic landmarks, natural wonders.
Yeah.
And this is where your personal interests really come into play.
Right. Like I know you mentioned being really into history and architecture.
Yeah.
So you might spend more time researching historical sites,
Right.
architectural marvels,
Exactly.
whatever it is that really speaks to you.
Yeah. And then they talk about local customs and etiquette.
Okay.
This is where you kind of move beyond just being a tourist
Right.
and become a respectful traveler.
I like that.
Yeah, Sophia actually gives this great example.
Oh, okay.
In some cultures, it's considered rude
Okay.
to point with your index finger,
Oh, interesting.
whereas in others, it's considered impolite
Yeah.
to refuse food when it's offered to you by a local.
Oh, that's good to know.
Right.
Yeah, I would not know that.
So, knowing these little things can really enhance your interactions with locals
Right.
and prevent, any unintentional faux pas.
Totally.
It shows that you're making an effort
Yeah.
to understand and appreciate their culture.
And that's really important.
It is. It's about being mindful and respectful.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then another crucial aspect that they emphasize,
Okay.
and I know this one is a big one for you,
Yeah.
food.
Oh, absolutely.
What kind of insights did they have on researching food?
So they advise going beyond just picking restaurants.
Okay. Yeah.
Research the local specialties,
All right.
regional ingredients.
Yeah.
Maybe even find some street food stalls that have rave reviews online.
Yeah.
They also say that learning even just a few basic phrases
Okay.
related to food
Yeah.
can really enhance your culinary journey.
That's a good point.
Imagine being able to confidently order
Yeah.
that delicious looking pastry that you saw in the bakery window.
Right. Or like ask about the ingredients.
Exactly.
Be able to understand the answer.
Yeah, it shows you're making an effort
Yeah.
to connect with the local culture.
Totally. Takes it to a whole new level.
It does. And while we're on this practical note,
Okay.
they also highlight researching transportation options.
Right.
Are you going to rely on public transport? Are you going to rent a car?
Okay.
Maybe you're going to explore the city on foot.
Right. And each method kind of gives you a different perspective
Absolutely.
of the place.
Yeah, like hopping on a local bus or train
Yeah.
gives you a real feel for the rhythm of the city.
Right.
You get to see everyday life happening around you.
Totally.
Whereas renting a car gives you that freedom
Right.
to go at your own pace.
Exactly.
And explore, more off the beaten track destinations.
So understanding all those logistics in advance, like how do you buy a bus ticket?
Right.
What are the driving rules? Do you need an international driver's license?
Exactly. All that stuff.
All that stuff will make the trip so much smoother.
It just takes away that stress.
Exactly. Speaking of which, they dedicate a good chunk of the podcast to talking about safety and health.
Yeah, those are essential aspects of travel planning.
Absolutely. Especially for someone like you who values peace of mind.
Right.
So they recommend checking travel advisories.
Yes.
From, your home country's government website.
Right. Those advisories give you the most up-to-date info on any safety concerns.
Okay.
Visa requirements.
Yeah.
Health risks associated with your destination.
It's like getting a safety briefing.
It is.
Before you go on your mission.
Exactly.
And speaking of health, vaccinations are a big one.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Sophia mentions that some countries actually require proof
Oh, wow.
of certain vaccinations for entry. So it's best to consult with your doctor or a travel health specialist
Right.
at least 6 weeks before your trip
Okay.
to make sure you have all the necessary vaccinations.
Yeah.
And any required medications like malaria pills if you're going to certain regions.
Better safe than sorry.
Always.
What other health-related advice do they offer?
Well, they talk about packing a well-stocked first aid kit.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you're just doing a weekend getaway,
Right.
you just never know when you might need a Band-Aid, some antiseptic wipes,
Yeah.
pain relievers,
Okay.
those little essentials.
Yeah. Good point. And of course, let's not forget travel insurance.
Oh, yes. That's a must.
Big advocates for that.
Absolutely.
Getting that comprehensive travel insurance.
Yeah.
That covers you for medical emergencies, trip cancellations,
Right.
lost luggage, all this,
Yeah. What if scenarios?
Exactly. Because those can really throw a wrench in your plans.
Yeah. It's better to have it and not need it
Right.
than need it and not have it.
Exactly. Now, switching gears a bit,
Okay.
they also talk about researching the local currency
Right.
and exchange rates.
Yeah. This is something that people often overlook,
It's true.
but it can save you a lot of hassle,
For sure.
especially if you're traveling to a country
Yeah.
with a different currency.
Yeah.
Sophia recommends having some local currency on hand for when you arrive.
Right.
But she also suggests researching
Yeah.
the best ways to exchange currency once you're at your destination. And she cautions against exchanging money at airports
Okay.
because they often have less favorable rates.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's all about being a savvy traveler,
Right.
getting the most bang for your buck.
For your euro or your yen.
Exactly.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, and finally they touch on something that's become
Okay.
more and more crucial these days.
Yeah.
Staying connected.
It's true.
James actually shares this funny anecdote
Oh, does he?
about a time when he forgot to check
No.
if his phone would work internationally.
Oh.
And he ended up racking up this huge roaming bill.
Oof. Yeah. Been there.
Yeah, so he really stresses the importance
Okay.
of researching international roaming plans or maybe even getting a local SIM card
Right.
if you're going to be using your phone a lot.
Yeah. That's a good tip. I've also found that having a portable Wi-Fi device
Oh yeah, those are great.
can be a lifesaver,
They are.
especially if you're relying on your phone for things like navigation or translation
Right.
or, booking accommodations on the go.
Yeah, it's your lifeline
It is.
to the outside world
Yeah.
and to all the information and resources you need
Right.
to navigate your trip.
So as you can see, research is an ongoing process.
It is.
Even as you're creating your itinerary,
Absolutely.
it's about being informed,
Yeah.
prepared, and ready to embrace all the adventures that come your way. All right. So now that we've laid that groundwork
Okay.
with research,
Yeah.
let's move on to the exciting part,
Okay.
crafting that dream itinerary.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've researched our destination.
Right.
We know what we want to see and do.
Yeah.
Now it's time to put it all together into an itinerary.
Okay.
The roadmap for our adventure.
I like that.
Sophia and James dedicate a big part of their podcast to this. And they've got some really insightful tips.
Cool.
They start by emphasizing
Okay.
that an itinerary isn't about rigidly scheduling every minute.
Right. It's not supposed to be like a military operation.
Exactly.
It's more about creating a framework
Okay.
that helps you maximize your time
Yeah.
and make sure you're prioritizing the things
Correct.
that are most important to you.
Because ultimately this trip is all about
Yeah.
fulfilling your travel dreams.
Exactly.
not following some generic checklist.
No, you got to make it your own.
Right. Sophia uses this great analogy.
Okay.
She says an itinerary is like a composer's score. It has structure,
Right.
but there's also room for improvisation and those, spontaneous moments that make a performance truly memorable.
I like that.
I love that. So how do we start composing our travel symphony?
Well, they recommend starting with what they call a brain dump.
Okay.
So just like write down everything that you want to do and see.
Just get it all out.
Yeah, just get it all out. Sure. And then you can start grouping those activities by location.
Right. So this helps minimize travel time.
Exactly.
See more without feeling rushed.
You don't want to be like running around from one end of the city to the other.
Totally. So if you're in a city, for example, you might group museums and historical sites that are close together and then dedicate another day to exploring a different neighborhood.
Exactly. And this is where Google Maps becomes your best friend.
Oh, no.
Sophia suggests creating a custom map with pins for all your must-visit spots.
I love that.
So you can visually see how things cluster together.
Totally.
Plan your routes accordingly.
That's so much better than just having a list.
Way more visual.
Now, one thing you've mentioned in your notes is that you want to avoid feeling overwhelmed by a jam-packed schedule.
Yeah, nobody wants to feel like they're on a forced march.
Exactly. And Sophia and James actually address this.
Oh, good.
They're big advocates for something called slow travel.
Ah, yes, slow travel.
What is that?
So it's not about rushing from one site to the next.
Okay.
It's about really immersing yourself in a place.
I like that.
Taking the time to soak it all in.
Okay, so less is more.
Kinda, yeah. They suggest building in buffer time between activities.
Okay.
So that there's room for spontaneity.
Yeah.
And those, unexpected detours that often lead to the best memories.
Totally. So what does this look like in practice?
Well, they recommend things like scheduling a relaxed lunch at a local cafe instead of just grabbing a quick bite on the go.
Right.
Or instead of trying to squeeze 3 museums into one day, maybe pick one and really take your time exploring it.
Right. It's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. Experience a few things deeply.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to check off a million things.
Totally. And they also stress the importance of incorporating free time into the itinerary.
Yes.
Those unscheduled blocks.
Yeah.
Where you can just wander and get lost in a neighborhood. Maybe stumble upon some hidden gems.
Exactly. You never know what you'll find.
Not all those who wander are lost.
That's right.
Right.
Sometimes the best discoveries happen when you're not following a strict plan.
Totally. Okay, so once you have that general framework, Sophia and James get into the nitty-gritty of daily planning.
Yeah.
They recommend considering the best time of day to visit certain attractions, especially if you're trying to avoid crowds.
Like maybe go early in the morning.
Yeah.
Or late in the afternoon.
Right, when the tour groups have thinned out.
Exactly.
Okay, good tip. And they also recommend checking for any special events.
Oh, yeah.
Or activities that might be happening during your trip.
Like a local festival or a market or a concert.
Right. Those can add a unique dimension.
They really can.
To your experience.
It's like sprinkling in some local flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they also talk about something that's essential for longer trips.
Okay.
Rest days.
Rest days.
Yes, these aren't days where you just like sit in your hotel room.
Okay.
It's more about having a relaxed schedule.
Okay.
Maybe just 1 or 2 key activities, leaving plenty of time to recharge and explore at a slower pace.
This is especially important if you're someone who tends to go full throttle on vacation.
Right. You need that time to recover.
Building in those pauses can prevent burnout.
Absolutely.
And help you savor each moment more.
It's like giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
To slow down and really absorb the magic of your surroundings.
Now, we've talked a lot about activity. But Sophia and James don't neglect the importance.
Yeah, of course not.
Of planning your meals.
Yeah.
Which, knowing you, is a crucial part.
It's essential
of the travel experience.
Absolutely. They emphasize doing your research.
Right.
Find those local restaurants, food markets, street food stalls.
Right.
Make a list of the places you want to try.
Okay.
And consider making reservations, especially if you're going to popular restaurants. Right. Or if you're traveling during peak season.
Don't be afraid to venture off the beaten path.
Exactly.
And try something new.
That's the beauty of culinary exploration.
You might discover your new favorite dish.
You never know.
Okay. And speaking of exploration.
Okay.
Once you've got your itinerary nailed down.
Yes.
Sophia and James recommend mapping out your transportation between each location.
Makes sense.
So this could be as simple as figuring out the best subway route.
Right.
Or as complex as planning a road trip with multiple stops.
Exactly. And they really stress the importance of factoring in travel time.
Yes. Especially if you have like timed entry tickets.
Exactly. You don't want to miss your slot.
Or reservations.
Hey, you don't want to be late for that dinner reservation.
Right, exactly. They also recommend checking the transportation schedules in advance.
Yeah. Especially
if you're relying on public transport.
Right, because in some cities, buses and trains might run less frequently on weekends or holidays.
Okay, good to know. So knowing those details can save you a lot of stress.
For sure.
And ensure that you arrive at your destination on time.
Okay, so now we've got a solid itinerary.
We do.
We're almost ready to go.
Yeah.
But they have 2 final pieces of advice.
Okay.
First, share your itinerary with a trusted friend or family member back home.
So someone knows where you're going to be.
Yeah, just in case of an emergency.
Good idea. And second,
always double check the weather forecast a few days before you depart. Because weather can be unpredictable.
That's true.
And it's always wise to be prepared.
Right. You might need to pack an extra layer.
Yeah.
Swap out sandals for sneakers.
Exactly.
Maybe even adjust your itinerary.
Yeah.
If there's a storm brewing.
Gotta be flexible.
Flexibility is key.
It is.
All right. So our itinerary is fine-tuned.
Check.
Bags are packed.
Check.
I think we're ready to embark on our adventure.
I think we are.
All right. Well, that's about all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground.
We have.
From choosing a destination and crafting the perfect itinerary to staying safe and healthy on our travels.
Absolutely.
Remember, the key is to do your research.
Yeah.
Plan ahead. But also be open to those unexpected moments.
Right. Those are often the best parts.
They really are. So where will your next adventure take you?
That's the question.
Thanks for joining us on the Speak Smart podcast.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Happy travels.
Bon voyage!